Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining in for the chapter 2 of AI Talks. The theme for this chapter is Automation Continuum, Scaling AI. So going forward, I hand it over
in this series of AI Talks. Hello, everyone. We have seen a lot in the last 2 years with the pandemic. A lot has changed over these 2 years, especially for the work. However, there is one workforce which has not seen any change at all, and that's a digital workforce. If we talk about RPA bots, be it conventional bots, ML bots, cognitive bots, they have been working the way they have been working before pandemic, during pandemic, and hopefully as we see the end of pandemic in next few months, it'll continue to work the way it has been working. So the organization who have been in the journey of AI, automation, scaling of their AI, have seen the benefits during this pandemic. And of course, with the pandemic, other organizations now are trying to accelerate the journey for scaling of AI. Today, we're going to discuss different challenges, different pitfalls, how different industries are scaling AI in their own organization. And I'm sure this session is going to be very, very insightful for all our viewers. Of course, for me, I am Hemang Naik, Global Head for Solutions and Offering for AI in Tech Mahindra. I have two esteemed guests with me, Peter Gartenberg from Blue Prism, who is Managing Director and President for Indian Subcontinent. I also have my colleague, my guide, Hasit Trivedi from Tech Mahindra. He's a CTO, Digital Solution, and Global Head of AI. So Peter, my first question to you, as every organization is now looking at accelerating their journey, how does AI help in automation journey? How does AI help in amplifying this automation journey? Peter.
Great. Well, thanks a lot for the invitation. This is it's an extremely relevant topic, so it's fantastic to see that you have talks on this topic, because I would say pretty much everything that we're doing today in the IT industry is starting, at least, and in some ways more further along, it's all starting to be infused with AI technologies and capabilities. So just, everything that pretty much every system that you're working on today, every application is seeing AI technology built into it or leveraged in some way or another. So when we look at our platform and with the objective, for example, of accelerating an automation and intelligent automation, we're now infusing into our platform a lot of AI capabilities to do things like process discovery, organizational workflow discovery, and so we're using AI technology to actually go out, look at systems, understand the as-is process, and then using AI technology to identify, the happy path through those processes. And then, but we're not stopping there. Now we're also using AI technology to build automations within our platform. So that's an example of where we're just the infusion into, an RPA platform that was Blue Prism is just so many different applications. And the reason we're using AI is that process I just described, that's a big issue for everyone. And that's actually been slowing down the deployment of AI and RPA projects, intelligent automation projects, for years. And this is a way of looking at those pain points and the things that were, slowing us down, and now getting well beyond that by automating a lot of that whole discovery to execution and deployment level. So that's a very exciting development for all of us. Moving from just process mining or task mining to actually deployment and automating as much of that process as we can. So that's a key area that we're seeing.
Thank you, Peter. And I completely agree. The way organization wants to scale this, AI is going to play a very important role. And be it a discovery, automation, RP, everywhere, it's going to come and play. Hasit, I just want to ask you your perspective on this. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Peter has narrated it pretty well. I would just add few things here that today, if you talk about digital transformation, no digital transformation can proceed without the inclusion of AI and automation. At the same time, you cannot break AI and automation. If AI is a brain, hands and feet are the automations, correct? So if you body to function, you need brains as well as the hands and feet. So that's why there's inseparable aspect of the technology that you need to infuse these two technologies together, always in conjunction to get the maximum throughput. Let me exemplify this piece. Take a case of, say, repair journey of a manufacturing or any shop floor or automobile area. While a computer vision kind of technique or visual inspection technique of AI can help you to detect a defect, but as a business process, you need to log a defect somewhere, correct? So you have to have automation to drive that identified defect into some defect tracking systems. And then if the AI assigns repairing job to some engineers, then engineer needs recommendations, and recommendations are provided by AI. But then when the defects are getting closed, then it has to be closed in system. Again, automation has to come into play, correct? If the customer needs to be communicated on the status and progress or email communication, automation needs to play into picture. So if you see the whole process, you cannot just have the automation just alone or cannot have AI alone. It's an end-to-end life cycle. In a subtask level, some AI element will be there, then task level, some automation will be there. And that's how if you have to orchestrate and digitally transform the process, both has to be infused together. And that's where I think some of the companies see either as an AI project or automation project, and thus they are not able to leverage this technology in conjunction fully. So either it becomes an RPA project and thus it just does some task automation, or they just create a certain chatbots or kind of thing or models, which is also incomplete, correct? Unless you bring it end-to-end process-wise and bring the AI in automation connected form, a true digital transformation process is just not possible. So I think it's important that we always talk AI and automation in conjunction.
Thanks, Hasit. And I think you rightly said and hit the nail. I like also the analogy of hands and legs, connected with the brain, and it has to go hand in hand, for the complete journey which clients have to take. And that brings up a very important second point, which I wanted to discuss here. See, a lot of organizations are a lot of time trying to scale into AI, and while they are doing very well in terms of automation, but when it comes to scaling of AI, either they are not seeing enough benefits or they are failing to scale to a level which they want to scale. So Peter, I want to ask you this one question here. When organizations start to scale from automation to AI, which are the different areas they should watch out for while scaling AI?
Yeah, well, first of all, I completely agree with what Hasit said about it. It's and the legacy of AI and automation has been pretty piecemeal in most organizations, and it wasn't thought of as holistic and end-to-end, and so it was like these little point solutions, point automation of something. So it was very piecemeal. And I think, that's an evolution. At Blue Prism, we kind of skipped over that because we never had that orientation. It was always this end-to-end, more strategic level. And we were very selective about the kinds of projects we went after. But I think probably the most important thing in any use of AI or automation is do you have your value metrics established properly? What is it exactly that the organization is trying to accomplish? And so many times when we are involved in automation projects, that's all forgotten, and people become enamored with the technology, but they don't think enough about the value metrics. What is it? Do we want to speed up a process? Do we want to reduce FTEs, which was the traditional, cost savings measure where it was applied? What do you want to do? Do you want to do something new in terms of customer experience? Is there some aspect of compliance processes? So you have to be very clear as an organization what you're actually trying to accomplish in terms of the output and the value that you're looking to gain from this technology. Otherwise, you go off and you do an IT project basically, and you're not really sure whether you've gone after the goal properly. So the good thing is, the state of the art in terms of AI is really progressing. So, which is, almost every month, I would say you're seeing improvements in AI models, and algorithms and all this. So that's really exciting. But to me, the most important thing about AI is how do you apply it to generate value? And that should be the starting point for everything. So automation and AI are really pretty, they're pretty much, nowadays, they're pretty much the same discussion. It's just the sophistication of the AI that's required for certain types of tasks. So I don't even, I don't see automation in one bucket and AI in another. They're used for the same purpose, but the place, as I say, that people go wrong is they don't have the clarity of what is it that they really want to accomplish and generate in terms of value.
And thanks, Peter. And I think one of the other important point which also comes out from this is look at the value which it's going to generate and go for it, basically, not get caught up in the cycle of experimentation, pilots, proof of value or something, right? Once you know that this is the value it's going to come out, something which has been already accomplished or looked at, then go from there and drive towards it, basically. That's what you are trying to indicate there, right?
There's nothing wrong with some experimentation along the way. Our platform, for example, has a way you can take different types of natural language processing. I can take a Google, I can take a Microsoft Vision, I can take different, Watson from IBM, and I can plug it into a process, see how it performs. I can then try the other one. So we actually, part of doing great automation, intelligent automation, is having an environment where you can experiment and change things with AI. But that should be within a project where you have an established value, kind of goal and metric there. But within the project execution, you should try different things, and we try to facilitate that. So that type of experimentation is no problem.
Right.
Doing fun projects and playing around with the technology, maybe for educating oneself it's okay, but I think on a serious project, which you guys work on, I think you want to be careful about those kind of unlimited journeys.
Absolutely. Hasit, you want to add something here? I see you have some thoughts, I guess.
No, I think this is, I think one of the, when you scale AI and automation, I think one aspect which becomes very critical is how can we be doing in a responsible manner. Correct. So if you look at if you are given empowerment to machine, correct, then it has to be responsible. Like if you are giving an accountability to human being, you expect human to be unbiased, you expect human to be ethical. I think the expectation should not be changing between human and machine, irrespective of who is performing the job. So the expectation should be based on job rather than the who does it. So I think the fundamental of responsible AI has to be ensured that yes, fairness, repeatability, accountability, explainability aspect has to be taken care. Otherwise, this technology, while the technology need not to blame, because AI is as good as how you train it, correct? So mostly if the AI is biased, the likelihood that the teacher is biased, correct? So I think the teacher has not trained the machine properly. But it comes as a blame to technology. And I am a technologist, and thus I keep informing and educating people that if the model is biased, it is something wrong with the teacher. The teacher has not taught it correctly. In fact, this technology can be used to detect a human bias, because it's not that human is completely out of bias. Right? Humans are pretty biased, and without knowing, you would be biased. So I think technology like AI has to be used for that purpose. And we need to be worried, of course, as a society, as a corporate responsible citizens, and compliant to regulations, correct? GDPR kind of regulations and mandate certain things, and we have to ensure that enterprise is aware of the implications of the laws and regulations, local aspect, and as well as the ethical and moral aspect of usage of this technology. And technology is equipped. The mechanics of various explainability aspect like Lime framework, Shape framework, various visualization techniques are available today to do a decent job. And today I can tell that machine can be as good as at least unbiased or explainable as a human being are there. Correct. So I think we need to be worried, but not be overly worried that we just don't do anything. Right. So typically that negativity or fear of certain misuse of technology becomes so large in some part of the organization that they stop using it or don't scale it up. I think these are the addressable issues. We need to be cognizant. Like any other technological project, we need to be good at design of the technology. We need to be disciplined. We need to do testings. We need to monitor the performances. As long as we follow the technological life cycle, which any engineering organizations have been following for decades. Correct. Unfortunately, when the models are developed by the data scientist people who are not necessarily be the technology people who has developed the software. Correct. Similarly, when RPA was developed, it got developed by the business users. Correct. And because both of these entities were not equipped to manage the software lifecycle management process, thus these questions got amplified. But now I think organization realizes that data scientists, business user, and technology team has to come together to maximize the benefit of this technology. I think it's moving in right direction. But yes, it is an important aspect as you scale. When you have few models and few bots in production, it may not matter. But as you scale, and I'm sure that in another 5 years, most of the companies have more number of bots than their human workforce. Correct, sir? And I think most of the companies have at least triple-digit models in productions, AI models in productions. While conversation AI bots are already plenty, but adoption is the issue there. Correct. So I think, but the fact is that it will be so pervasive that we need to have mechanism, checks and controls and balances has to be in place. So thus there is a governance, technological, like Blue Prism manage their bots through a control tower kind of mechanism. I think the similarly control tower mechanism has to exist in the conversation AI space or the machine learning also, which unfortunately is not so robust in some of the pure.
Thanks, Hasit. I think you touched upon some very important aspects about ethical AI, unbiased AI, and I think as anyone is taking the journey of AI, as the models start to move into production and start performing, it is very important to ensure that they are performing consistently. And of course, there are different ways, like you mentioned, right? There could be a command center be put up. Right now, I think it's not there for AI kind of models, but it should be there, or continuously monitoring of those. And one of the other important aspects as well, to continuously monitor the data as well. You know, are there any bias getting created with data? Is there any change which is happening within data? and then slice and dice and see where exactly it has impacted the model. It shouldn't happen that today models perform something else, it's giving consistent result, and next day it gives completely different results, right? It's not going to help. So it is very important that it is consistent across. And I think some of those command center, which we do currently use for RPAs and of the worlds, I think we need to have that, for AI kind of world as well, as we get in the journey of that. Peter, I just want to go a little bit on the industry side of it. We of course talked about automation, AI, how we can scale, and of course it is a journey. Automation and AI goes hand in hand. We can't separate the legs and hands from the heart and brain, basically, right? That's what we are saying, as Hasit rightly said. Now, are you seeing that this journey is different for different industries? Do they have different nuances? Are they adapting differently?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And, it was interesting, this idea about governance. You see, the first industry area that really did rapid, both RPA and intelligent automation, is the financial services industry. So fintech was by far the first area where we really saw this technology. And because that was the Blue Prism heritage, we built governance into the original model. And because we bring in, we leverage with this thing called a digital marketplace for AI. So we pre-built, and this is a codeless environment where we have, with the world's greatest innovators in terms of AI technology, we have a an active marketplace of those AI assets. And then you can, again, codeless, it's really a click and pull and drop it into a automation process. So, but all of those, everything that's happening in that process is fully, under our command center. It's fully auditable. So one of the key things that we did very early and continue to sort of be the gold standard was around an irrefutable audit trail. There's no coding. That's why we don't want coding into a business process, because that introduces, inconsistencies and potential breaches. So we don't even allow that in a proper automation process design. So AI is brought right into that governance framework, and fully, we track everything that's happening within that automation process. So that's kind of a key thing, and that was a learning that we took from the financial industry, that we had to have that. And then we were also heavily represented in like medical, the healthcare industry, which is another very demanding regulated industry. So that is where, in industry verticals, that's where you're seeing the most AI, of course, becoming key to many, many processes. But if you think about it, the other industries that are where you're seeing tons of AI, Facebook or whatever it's called now, Meta, Google, this is where, or Amazon, what they're doing. These are industries, these cloud first, companies who have done a ton of AI work. I mean, it's pretty much fundamental to what they are as companies and what their products are. So that's one category, and that's where issues, like that Hasit brought up around, ethical AI, that's where all the discussions are happening in that space. When you look at fintech, which I would say was a traditional vertical, I would say there's less of that, of that issue right now, because usually the AI is used for sort of a purpose. read this document, manage this invoice, so a lot of OCR technologies. Now, the ethical part, though, of course, that you have to watch out for in the financial industry is how do you profile, score a credit, a loan application. I mean, there's a lot of potential for abuse there in those kind of models. But that's also, that's a human, that was a manual abuse in that industry, right? Where you were, having biases against certain, people for lending or collections or things like this. So, that area is absolutely kind of a hot spot for potential AI abuse. But most of the automation and AI application in the financial industry is not in that category of risk in that particular area. But go to those other guys, Meta, wow, we know, or YouTube, how's YouTube, how is it serving up things, and going to the thing that is most disturbing or shocking, and then you give somebody more of that type of content. I mean, that's where there's a ton of ethical problems that I think we will have many years of trying to sort that out.
Okay. So Peter, what you're basically saying is, while fintech has been the early adopters for automation, but when it comes to some of the work within fintech, and because of course, there could be a bias, there could be some ethical issues which could be there, it, of course, it doesn't mean it's not there manually today, but at least with the AI, you have to be more cognizant of, it is giving a correct results. It shouldn't be, while doing a credit scoring for a loan application, it can't go wrong, basically, right? So some of those aspects are pretty important, and some of the industries are treating it that way, basically. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I completely agree. Yeah.
It's the technology has the, incredible potential for abuse. I mean, it can be fantastic technology to augment human capabilities, human effort. It can be, there's so many great use cases. I would say in probably almost every industry. It's just fintech was the first one probably to get into it. But so it can do so many useful and valuable things. But of course, the same technology, you can use it to do all sorts of negative things.
Right. And that's why, I always say that do automation in AI with human in the loop, So some of the critical decisions, it has to be handled at the end of by human, basically. You can't just leave everything on AI. But yes, it's going to take care of 70-80% of the efforts which human is today doing, and a lot of intelligent work can be left to the human. So the additional 70-80% bandwidth which human get can be utilized for doing some really meaningful and intelligent work.
Exactly. Absolutely. I mean, that's really our understanding of this technology. It should be an augmentation. Right. Humans should do the things that they're best at, and AI should do the thing that it's best at. And there are some things that humans just can't do. That AI can do, but again, it's as an augmentation of our capabilities. Right. So it's, and I can't even really break it down by percentage, but I can tell you in most companies, most organizations, there's a ton of work that actually AI would probably do a lot better than the human worker, and the human worker is very happy to allow those activities to be given off to an AI technology to do it.
Right. And thanks, Peter. That's fantastic. Hasit, I just want to ask you, switch a gear a little bit here. and move towards more on the partnership side of it. What do you think the role of players like Blue Prism, RPA players like Blue Prism, can have a joint proposition with someone SI partners like Tech Mahindra? How can we take a joint proposition to market?
As I said, I think we at Tech Mahindra always believe that the AI automation, and now I want to add analytics also, 3A coming together kind of thing. So I think we believe this thing has to come together to drive any digital transformation. It's like saying that data doesn't have any value if there's no insight, and insight doesn't have any value if there's no action. Correct? So I think finally it will boil down to action. And if we have to deliver a digital transformation with the action-driven approach, I think all the automation players and Blue Prism will have a critical role to play in our proposition to our customers. And we have identified with Blue Prism certain areas which we believe is a mutually agreeable, and we are discussing closely with them. Being telco being a key sector for Tech Mahindra, the whole thing in 5G deployment, testing around 5G, and because if you go into 5G testing, the test cases are millions. People have to test a million test cases per day to do a reasonable rollout. Now, and then of course there are AI and automation combined together as well. This is just a deterministic cases which have to be technology enabled. A human can't do. It's just impossible to do this thing humanly. So I think we have identified workload moving to cloud is another areas. Cloud migrations, SAP migrations are some of the space which we have jointly worked out, and we have decided to take this thing to market together. We are doing account planning, and we believe that automation will play a critical role. And we believe that along with the hyperscalers of the world, who are the AI providers, in with the RPA and discovery tool providers like Blue Prism, we would be making our journey pretty powerful and provide a meaningful conversation with the customers and value delivery to customers. So that's what we feel that Blue Prism will play an important role in our partnership for digital transformation to customer.
Thanks, Hasit. Peter, I just want to take your perspective from RPA perspective. How do you work with the different SI partners like Tech Mahindra, and what's the role of SI making such journey successful? So your perspective. Yeah.
It's an extremely important one, and I'm pretty happy to say that the Indian based GSIs are becoming more and more prominent in the kind of projects that we're doing globally. And in fact, when I was hired to set up Blue Prism in India, one of the core things that I was going to do was build a team to support the Indian GSIs. So that we have a whole team that just works on, enablement, building the capabilities of Indian GSIs like TechM, and then the go-to-market plans and all of that, we put a key focus on, because we're pretty convinced that Indian organizations like TechM are going to be big leaders in this entire digital transformation, cloud movement, and of course we're most excited about the whole intelligent automation aspect of all of that. So yes, it's organizations that, again, like TechM, Hasit mentioned telecom. I mean, one of the key things and value that I think an organization like TechM brings is all your domain expertise. Automation without domain expertise, or the use of AI without domain expertise, is pretty not very high value. But when you put the domain expertise of your organization, along with all your technical capabilities and all of that, and then you're joined up with customers where you're working again at their business level, leadership level, and strategic level, and also with, their various levels of, their IT organizations and all that. You put all that together, you see successful, very large scale, strategic, intelligent automation. So those are all the elements. And frankly, Blue Prism never was going to do that alone. We've always had a partner. They were always part of our go-to-market, and they'll continue to be.
Thanks, Peter. I think that it comes to our end, and thanks so much, Peter and Hasit, both of you, for this fascinating and insightful session today. There are quite a bit of takeaway from this. One of the one which Hasit mentioned about automation AI goes together, and Peter echoed as well, that there is no silo work at automation can't do alone without AI, or AI can't do it without automation. It goes hand in hand. So that's one of the very important aspects which came out today. Command center, which we have been having for RPAs and bots, I think it's very important to have such command center to give a holistic view of complete automation to AI journey, right? It's not just about one particular area, but the complete journey. The other thing, as we scale in AI, there are a lot of areas to watch out for. And one of them is to give a biased, unbiased, and the ethical AI, data consistency, governance around it. It is going to be very, very important for scaling AI and making sure that the AI model performs throughout the life cycle of the journey. Like you said, Peter, there are certain industries which are ahead in the curve. FinTech, of course, started with it. But eventually, I think every industry is now catching up. Every industry is looking at disrupting the business process, giving a great user experience to their customers. And AI is, it's right now. If you can't scale now, like they say, AI, if no AI, die, So I think it's right now. It's going to happen. It's happening now. And everyone is embarking on it. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great day ahead.
Hasit, thanks, Peter. Thanks for joining in and providing such great insights. Thanks to all the viewers also. Thank you so much.